Well, hey everyone, and welcome to Central. So glad that you're with us today. And if you're watching online, we'd love for you to take a moment right now to share this experience on whatever platform that you're watching on, as it goes a long ways in helping us spread the word about this amazing community of faith. Now, if you're new here today and you haven't had a chance to connect with someone on our team, we'd love to meet you. And if you're joining us today in person, why don't you join us after the experience and head over to the connections wall in our lobby to meet some of our pastoral team and volunteers in blue shirts. They're ready to answer any questions that you may have and help you get connected here at Central. Now, if you're joining us online, we'd love to hear from you as well. Wherever you're watching from, why don't you take a moment right now in the chat window, let us know where you're watching from, and reach out to our online hosts. And if we could pray for you or answer any questions that you may have, we want everyone to be part of what's happening here today. Here at Central, our vision is simple: helping you connect with God and each other. And everything that we do here, from our Sunday experience to groups to our kids and youth programs, revolves around those two things. Today, to help you connect with God, we want to encourage you to open your heart to experience God's love for you as we worship together. You see, connection to God can look different for everyone, but we want you to know that this is a safe place to explore your faith and your relationship with God. Then, to help you connect with others, we have groups. And our groups are designed with you in mind and how we can best serve you in your next steps. So, to ensure that we have something for everyone, we have 4 types of groups here at Central. We have community groups, small groups, interest groups, and support groups. Each group is led by a leader committed to helping you connect to God and others on the same journey of faith. You can find information on all of our groups at centralcc.ca/groups. Speaking of groups, we're looking forward to next Sunday. September 11th is our fall kickoff here at Central. Summer is over and it's time to get back into the routine of fall. And so we want to encourage you to be sure to join us next week as we celebrate the unofficial start of fall and, more importantly, the launch of our fall programming, including groups. We're going to have a number of opportunities for you and your family to get connected through the month of September. So why don't you join us under the tents following the 9 and 11 a.m. experience outside entrance A. You can find out about the different ministries available this fall, whether it's kids programming, youth ministry, groups, interest groups, activities for the kids, chatting with our leaders, food, stuff for family. All morning, it's going to be an amazing celebration, connecting together with our church family as we kick off this fall. Last Sunday night, we were able to take some time and show our amazing team of volunteers how much we love and appreciate everything they do around here at Central. Thank you to those of you who are able to come out and enjoy a fun, casual night, hanging out, eating popcorn, watching a movie together. And so why don't you check out this little highlight video of our night. If you're interested in finding ways to volunteer here at Central, head over to our website, centralcc.ca/volunteer, and there's lots of great opportunities available. One of the easiest ways and most fulfilling ways to get connected here at Central is through volunteering, so why don't you head over there and check that out. One last thing to mention today, with the start of fall and everything getting back to the routine of fall, is to be sure to mark your calendars for Sunday, September 25th and the return of our Encounter Worship Nights. Join us at 6 p.m. for this hour of worship together. It's going to be an awesome opportunity for you to turn off the distractions of your week and spend some focused time between you and God. We're going to create some space for prayer and communion and to start this new season connecting to God and each other. This is a great night for your whole family. And for those of you with small kids, there is childcare available for those 5 and under. And so we hope to see you there at Encounter. If you have any questions about anything that we've mentioned today, you can text our number 905-937-5610, or you can head over to our website, centralcc.ca/connect, as it's your best resource to stay updated on everything that we've talked about today. You can also scan the QR code on the seat back in front of you to complete a connection card. And as always, you can head over to the connections wall following the experience, as we'd love to have a conversation and help you get connected today. So that's all from me. Our experience is about to start, and I want to invite you to stand with me if you're able as we worship together.
Good morning, everyone. Whether you're here in person or watching online, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I'm going to invite you all to stand if you're able and join with us
what your weeks look like. I don't know what you came into this room with. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're so excited. I actually hear so many of you singing. Maybe you truly believe these lyrics that we're singing about. But we're praying today that we would remove anything in the way from us to hear from God. So whatever is, maybe there's something in the way. I just want you to remove that. And as we sing these next songs, that you would connect to God. You believe these lyrics that we're singing. He's a good God, and we can be confident in Him.
And I've tried so hard to see it. It took me so long to believe it, that you'd choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You give what we don't deserve it. You take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. And now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. This is my victory. You are my champion. And giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. He's conquered it all. Thank you, Jesus. So we open up our voices, open up our mouths. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, every
every trouble. The path set before you, He's already won. Would we be confident today in knowing that Jesus already won? Of course, we're talking about Jesus dying on the cross for all of our sins. The darkness is scattered because of Him, and in Him there's only light. And when He is in us, that means there's only light as well, and the darkness must flee. So there's something to be said about how Jesus already won that battle, whatever you're going through. And we just need to remind ourselves, we need to stand on God's word, maybe read that word more and more so that we are confident in knowing that our God is greater than anything that we may face today. So God, we stand confident in you today. We know that when we open our mouths like we are doing right now and worshiping you, that the miracle that is happening is inside of us. And so God, we continue to remind ourselves today how good you are, how great you've been, how you've carried us through. In story after story, testimony after testimony in this room, or people watching online, there are so many stories that reveal the greatness of our God, the God we worship today. Because you've already won. You've already won it. We're so thankful for you, oh God. Thank you, Jesus. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, yes, I will sing of the goodness of God. I keep singing. Come on, lift your voice up to Him right now of how good He is. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. sing, you're here. When we love you, you're here. You're here. And we need you, God. We always need you. So that lyric that we sang in the last song, when I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. Have you figured out yet that the miracle happens in you? At least for me, you know, we can come here at 6:30. Oh my goodness, 6:30 is tiring, okay? But as soon as we open up our mouths and we start releasing worship from our heart to God's, there's something that happens, and it's miraculous for sure. It's interesting because we're here and we want to honor God, and in the same breath, we are just being so filled with His Holy Spirit, and that miracle is happening within us. So we can't stop doing this. We can't stop worshiping. And it can't just be on a Sunday morning. It needs to be every day of your life. And that's how the layer upon layer, upon layer, and upon layer of your relationship with God strengthens. And that's how you can say, no matter what, my whole life God has been so good. No matter what, because He is. And so thank you today, church. Thank you for joining us online. Thanks for giving your heart today to God. When every one of us in this room do it, you just feel it and you know that we're here for the same purpose. And so I leave so encouraged today, being here with you today. So I'm gonna invite you now to grab a seat. I know Pastor Bill has a great word that he's been working on this week. I hope you have the ears to hear it and the eyes to see what God is doing in everyone's heart today. Amen.
This week, I did one of the dumbest things I have done in a very long time. And that's saying a lot, because I do a lot of dumb things. Just ask my wife. This week, it was a great week. I don't know if you were enjoying the Niagara weather. You're kind of getting ready for the fall season. So I had a bit of vacation time, so I had a couple of good friends, and we decided Thursday afternoon we were gonna take off and go golfing. And if you know me, I love to golf. There's something about being outside with my friends, it's awesome. So I got here early. I knew I had to tie a whole bunch of loose ends for the weekend. And as I was driving in, you know, my gas tank was kind of on the E. And I thought, you know, okay, it's all right. You know, I got a lot of things to do. I'll just get into to work. And once I get all that done, I'll go get some gas. And so I got to work, and you know how it is, right? I had all these things, and one thing led to another, and then I realized I'm cutting it close to get to the golf course. And before an ice course, I went to Grand Niagara, which is like my favorite course, one of my favorite courses in the area. I like to putt a little bit, chip, so I was in a hurry. So I got out, yep, there's my thing on E. I'm like, oh, you know, I can make it to the golf course. No problem. I don't want to be late, so I make it to the golf course. Had the time of my life. Get into my car. Turn on the car, it's on E. I think to myself, you know what? I can make it back to Lake Street. I can make it, and that's where I like to get my gas, so I'm gonna make it there. So I'm driving, and of course, on the QEW at Niagara Street. Okay, I am like one exit away. One exit away. I'm in the fast lane. It's none of your business how fast I was going. I'm in the fast lane, and I'm out of gas. And so that is the worst. I'm decelerating and I'm fighting traffic and I'm trying to get over, and it is chaos. I finally get into the on-ramp at Niagara Street and I stall. I'm out of gas, nothing. I roll down my windows to get some air, just get exhaust. They will not go up. I have no gas in my vehicle. So I go to my phone to get some help. 1%, 1%. So now I have one phone call. And I'm in a dilemma because I'm like, okay, there are two sources of help I can go to. One is like CAA or a tow truck or something like that, but they're gonna charge me money and they're gonna have to fine me, and that could be, so I'm gonna call my wife. Now you gotta understand, like, it was with great fear and trepidation that I called my wife, because she, every time the gas tank gets like to a quarter, she's like, Bill, you should fill with gas. I'm like, oh, I got this. Oh, I got this. Wives, do not elbow your husbands. It's not nice. And so I call her and I'm like, honey, I'm so sorry. And if you've met my wife, she is literally the sweetest human being on planet Earth. Next to Jesus, there is no one more loving. And so she's, of course I'll be there in a minute. So she goes and gets gas in a tank. I had one in the garage. I told her where that was. Go get it. She brings it, and she had to go to the gas station, and the gas attendant, because she likes full serve, filled it with gas. But when he was filling with gas, you know the funnel, the nozzle? When you put it back in, it fell into the tank. It's like, yeah, because so if you don't have the nozzle, you can't pour gas. And so now I'm like, oh, this is just great. This is awesome. I have no phone, I'm out of gas, and I can't get gas into this car. So I go into my vehicle, and fortunately I had a sermon. And I rolled it up into a funnel. Probably the best thing that had to ever happen to that sermon. And I stuck it in, and I just started pouring gas. Now I am on the QEW. Trucks are like inches away. Carlene's like praying, in her car. And I get this car in the gas, and I get it in, and I'm like, yeah, okay, good. And I get onto the highway. And God says, now if you've never had God speak to you, it's a lot like your own voice. It's exactly like your own voice. And I just had this thought, Bill, you are dumb. Thank you for the encouragement. I know. But it was really fascinating because he said, because that's exactly what you're gonna talk about on Sunday. Because here's the deal. I may not know your story. I don't even necessarily know where you're at right now, but I do know enough about human nature that there are many times when our life is on empty. An aspect of our life is on empty. We ignore the warning signs. We ignore them. We actually believe we can do it, we can fix it, I got it. And then we end up on the side of the highway, stuck, unable to move. We all know what it's like to be living on empty. Whether it's our spiritual life, we don't feel like we have any connection to God. Or maybe it's in our relational life, we don't have that loving feeling anymore. Or maybe it's in our physical life, we feel like something is wrong, something is amiss, and we're right. So the question today is, what do you do when your life is on empty? When you're forced to walk through those dry and arid desert experiences where you feel nothing, sense nothing, feel immobilized and paralyzed by life's circumstance, your choices, whatever the case is, who do you call for help? And do you know why you're there? That's our story as we conclude in our series called Heroes and Villains. And today's hero is Elijah, and today's villain is not just Jezebel, but her husband Ahab. So I'm gonna set the scene for those of you who are kind of new to the story. So the nation of Israel has escaped out of slavery in Egypt. They're trying to establish themselves as a nation. They don't have a king for a very long time. That was last week. Samson was one of the judges, these tribal leaders or chiefs who rose up to defend the people. But now kings have been established. Of course, we have King Saul our first, and David and Solomon. We're on our seventh king, and his name is King Ahab. And here's what the Bible says about King Ahab in 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 30. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. And that's saying a lot, because there were some pretty bad dudes before him. He is the worst. Of course, the question is, well, why was he the worst? And what does it mean that he did evil in the eyes of the Lord? Again, we got to go back to last week where we explored this idea that anytime you miss the mark for what God has for your life, anytime you stray from God's intention and purpose for you, right? You do what's right in your eyes, you miss what God sees for you. And so as a result, something's gonna happen in the land. And you need to also know that Ahab was married, He married a woman, her name was Jezebel. If you've never heard that name before, it's because we don't name our daughters Jezebel. That's not a nice thing to do because Jezebel was awful. And Jezebel was awful because she was pre-cancel culture. She was like the cancel culture. She was the source of cancel culture. If you didn't agree with her, she killed you, literally. One time, her and her husband wanted a vineyard. The guy Naboth wouldn't sell it, so they killed him, dead. Sometimes people had the audacity to say, I don't think that's right. They were killed. She literally canceled everybody physically who got in her way. But she also brought in a false ideology, a way of thinking about the world that was destructive because it was counter or opposite to God's way of thinking about the world. So as a result, in chapter 17, verse 1, Elijah the prophet goes to King Ahab and he says to him, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will neither be dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. Now, we read that in our context, and we have irrigation systems. We figured out how to dam up water, so we have reserves. So this isn't a big deal for us, but in the agricultural society of the ancient world, no rain literally meant death. If you had no rain, first your crops would die. Once your crops died, your animals died. Once your animals died, you died. And so this was severe. And in the ancient world, rain was associated with blessing from God. It was literally attributed to blessing. You know, my grandfather was a farmer, and before he passed, I remember every day when I would stay with him or be with him, the first thing he would talk about, what was it? If you're from Alberta, what's the first thing you talk about? The weather. Is it gonna rain today? Because the weather determined not only your livelihood, but your life. So rain in the ancient world was associated literally with life. And so in this context, the rain for Israel was to be a symbol, a metaphor of God's blessing and God's provision. And so we see in Leviticus chapter 26, verse 3, that God had told the nation of Israel, if you follow my decrees and are careful to obey my commands, I will send you rain in its season. And on the ground will yield crops and trees their fruit, and you will eat the food you want, all the food you want, and live safely in your land. See, before we can solve the problem, we got to know why we're in the problem. And the Bible is very clear that God has established a way for this world to work and function. And when you don't live in that way, you invite destruction. I wrote it out this way in my journal, and I apologize in advance. It's cheesy, okay? But I promise you're gonna remember it because sometimes that's the way I just think about things. And here's what I wrote in my journal. If you don't submit to God's reign, R-E-I-G-N, his rule, his authority, his way of thinking, you cannot expect God's reign or blessing. The first thing you need to understand is that in order to experience God's very best for your life, you have to submit to following the instructions. Just like I should listen to my wife, every time that tank gets to a quarter tank, I should listen to her and pull over and fill the tank. And listen, on your way out today, shake my hand, but do not reprimand me for not filling my tank with gas. I had 700 of that in the first experience. Neither do tell me mechanics that yes, after a quarter tank, your cooling pump, I don't know, something doesn't work. I know, okay, I went out of gas. I told you the story. But this is the point. I'm willing to acknowledge my mistake. And the first step to experience God's very best for your life is to acknowledge your mistake in not trusting God with every aspect of your life. And maybe you're new to church, and we're so glad you're here. Maybe this is your first time with us. So glad you're here. I hope you know that this is a safe place to explore your ideas and thoughts. Everyone is welcome. This is a place for you. But you need to know the reason we're so passionate in our singing and our communicating and everything is because we know, not just believe, we know that there is a God who is fighting for our very best. And when we submit to his best, we can expect his best in us. So if you find yourself on the side of the road of life, empty, abandoned, rejected, frustrated, angry, miserable, lonely, The first question is, have you checked the tank? When was the last time you checked the tank? When was the last time you filled it with what is supposed to go in the tank? Because you can fill a tank with water. I do not recommend that. And so because of Ahab's disobedience and his marriage and his allegiance to Jezebel and her false ideology, there is no rain. But I love the story because God is a God of second chances. The good news, and here's the turn, is that if you are here and you've made a mistake, it's okay. God is a God of second chances. As a matter of fact, he's the God of third and fourth and fifth and sixth and 100 and 1,000 and a million chances. He's the God that is willing, anytime you call and say, Daddy, help me, he comes and he will fill your tank and he will set you back on the direction for your life that you were designed for. That is who he is. And so it says in 18 verse 1, after a long time, in the third year, the Lord came to Elijah, go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain in the land. So Ahab went to meet Elijah, and when he saw Elijah, he said to him, is that you, you troubler of Israel? I love that. Ahab isn't willing to take any responsibility. It's Elijah's fault. Yeah, right. Like Elijah is just the messenger. Ahab is willing to blame everybody else and take no responsibility for himself. I'm not pointing fingers, but that is a cultural ideology right now. It's not your fault, it's everybody else. Don't worry about your responsibility. You do what feels good for you. You do what's right for you. If it makes you happy, you knock yourself out. And if anybody objects, you just kill them. You cancel them. Smear their reputation. Do whatever you have to do because you are it, baby. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's your fault. If you were nicer, I'd be nicer. If you'd give me everything I want, I'd be a normal person. It's a lie. And Ahab has swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. And so Elijah says, I have not made trouble for Israel. What are you talking about? You and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel. This is going to be a showdown. I love it. And he says, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of the Asherah, which was basically the male and female deities of Canaan, who eat at Jezebel's table. I love that. It is so rich in imagery, these false ideas that are being fed in this culture. And so we have this battle between two worldviews. The world view of Baal and Asherah, which is life is not good. And so you have to make it good. You have to take control of your life. You have to sacrifice everything to get what you want. And if you make the right sacrifice, you get what you want. On the other side, you have Elijah and Yahweh. Life is actually really good. And God is the one who's in control, and you can trust him. You don't have to live in fear and anxiety. It's nothing you do. He's done it all. You just have to submit to him. And so you have these two worldviews, and in the center is this altar, this idol. And again, idols, we don't think of them anymore maybe unless you travel around the world a little bit, but we have idols today. An idol is simply any physical representation of a worldview. We have a really big one here in North America. It's called the dollar sign. The dollar sign is an image that many of you believe if you had more of, you'd be happy, right? You've been told, if you had more money, you'd really be happy. If you had more money, you'd be more successful. If you had more money, and so we worship the dollar sign. We sacrifice to the dollar sign. Some of us sacrifice our families at the altar in order to get a career that'll make us more money. We sacrifice our long-term gain for short-term pleasure. We sacrifice all the time on the altar of the idols of what our world says really matters. We do it with our stars, our heroes. If you were an influencer, you'd be happy. If you were rich and famous, you'd be happy. Really? Really? All you need to do is read some of their stories to know that that is a lie. And when you sacrifice at that altar, it only leaves you empty and dry. And so Elijah is going to make a sacrifice because nothing great happens without sacrifice. As a matter of fact, you and I sacrifice every day. You may not think of it that way, but you do. You sacrifice your time by choosing what you're gonna do with it. You sacrifice your money by deciding how you're gonna spend it, what you're gonna do with it. You sacrifice your talent, your gifts, to get either what you want or what you have been called to. And so this is gonna be a showdown between two worldviews. And I think it's happening still today. The media is pumping a worldview that is contrary to the worldview that established this great nation. Jeremiah the prophet in Jeremiah 16:29 reminds the people, our ancestors possessed nothing but false gods, worthless idols that did them no good. And so today the warning meter of your life might be on E, might be saying, hey, this choice you've made, it's gonna lead you to an empty road. It's gonna lead you to desolation. It's gonna lead you to a dry place. This idea that you think is so true and you're fighting for, honestly, don't hold on to it. It'll consume and destroy you. But if you trust in a God who's good, he only wants to do what's best for you. So Elijah starts and he takes 12 stones. This is really important. So on Mount Carmel, again in the ancient world, the closer you were to the heavens, the closer you were to the gods. It made sense to them. And so up on this mountain, they had built an altar, but it had been torn down. And this altar was made of 12 stones, each stone representing one of the tribes of Israel. It was this idea that there was a foundation upon which the nation was to be built, a foundation of values and beliefs and ideologies that if maintained would bring prosperity and rain, health, blessing. But that had been torn down, and in its place was another altar to a false ideology. And so Elijah begins by rebuilding the foundation that was eternal, the foundation that millions of people have tried and tested, the foundation of who God is and what he does. And on the other side, you had the prophets of Baal and Asherah. These were the experts in their society. They're the ones that CNN had on as interviews to explain what's going on in the world. They had book tours and they had podcasts and they were influencers. They were the people that people looked to say, give us the answers. Oh, if I use this face cream, I will be younger and happier. Oh, if I had more money, then I could actually have power and influence. Oh, if I could just get into power, then I could oppress the people who've oppressed me. Believe that, and they just vomited that day after day after day, and they're on this side. And so Elijah says, okay, give it a crack. Give it a whirl. See how it works. And Elijah, it says, went before the people and he said, how long will you waver? This word in the Hebrew literally means to limp. See, they're gonna try to dance because this word is gonna be used again when they try to dance around the altar. But when you're shackled to a false idea, when you're shackled to a bondage, you can't dance. So he says, how long will you waver between two opinions? If God is God, then follow him. But if this is God, then follow it. And they had nothing to say. See, here's what I learned, and I wrote this down. Truth requires courage and is able to withstand the scrutiny of time. What is true must be true in every generation, in every context, throughout human experience. It can't be true today and it wasn't true yesterday, and it can't be true yesterday and it's not true today. This is the challenge with the worldviews that we are being force-fed right now. They haven't stood the test of time. We think we're so advanced. We think we're so intelligent. We think we figured out a better way to do it, and we completely disregard the foundations upon which our blessing and prosperity is built. And we set ourselves up in that place. I know better, I'm smarter. Call it whatever you want. Call it science for all I care. It's a battle of two worldviews. One is dry. The other is fire. So they start dancing around And Elijah, I don't think he's very nice here. I don't recommend this, but he starts mocking them. He's like, hey, you guys, what's happening over there? I'm there like in a lather. They're dancing around, and he's like, what's happening? Maybe your God went on vacation. Actually, in the Hebrew, it says maybe he's in the bathroom, relieving himself. That's the literal Hebrew. And he's mocking them, and they're so upset. They're like, oh, yeah, they start cutting themselves, and they start cutting each other. It's like a mess, because that's what this empty worldview does. It destroys you. And when they're done, they're exhausted and they're empty, and everything they've tried to make their life matter is flat. Elijah says, God, please send the fire. And what I love about this story, you remember, water is scarce, but he's gonna make it impossible. He's gonna make it so that there's no doubt that this isn't some kind of trick. Only God could do it. And he has water poured on the altar 3 times. It's a huge sacrifice because he knows God is gonna show up, and he does. Listen, there's a false idea that the crowd is right. There's a false idea that just shut up and fit in. There's a false idea that if the majority believes it, it's true. But in this story, we know that that is not true. Truth can sometimes stand in a single individual who stands up and says, enough, enough. I am fighting for my family. I am fighting for my mind. I am fighting for my heart. I am fighting for my country. I don't care what you think. I know what is true. And I'm going to rebuild the foundations upon what this nation, this great book, and my God are all about. He is truth. And so there's some really fascinating English idioms. There's proof in the pudding. I have no idea what it means. There's proof in the pudding. It means it's until you taste it, you know if it's good or not. Or we say put up or shut up. Not such a nice one. Or put your money where your mouth is. So here's my question to Bill today. And just so I'm clear, if you're new to this, and you're thinking I'm trying to peddle my idea of who God is, I'm not. I'm simply inviting you to discover who he is and make your own choice. But the question for Bill today is, what is true, and am I willing to give everything for it? Even if I'm rejected, cut off, rebuked, ridiculed, or even killed. See, Elijah was willing to risk everything for what he knew was true, and that's what makes him a hero. And so it says, he prays, and you can read the story for yourself. The fire falls. And when the people saw this, because here's the deal, there are very few leaders and there are a ton of followers, but we need more leaders who lead the way and show that truth really does work. Love really does win in a world of hate. Telling the truth does win in a world full of lies. Hope does exist in a world full of despair. These things are true, and when we fight for them and lead them and live them, then people see it. And they went, oh, the Lord is God. They're so shocked, they say it again, the Lord, he is God. And Elijah said to Ahab, go eat and drink, for there is the sound of heavy rain. It has not rained in 3.5 years. There is not a cloud in the sky. But Elijah is so convinced that what God said is true, he is willing to say it even if he can't see it. He is willing to walk in it even though all the evidence is to the contrary. He is willing to stand on what is true. And so Elijah climbed to the top of Mount Carmel. I love this part. He bent down to the ground and put his face between his knees. In the Hebrew, it literally means he wanted to throw up. He is so worked up about this because he's put his life in jeopardy. Remember Jezebel, the cancel culture queen? She is going to take him out. And he's put it all out there for truth. God, I'm going to trust you on this. You said it, so I'm going to believe it. When was the last time you lived that kind of courageous living? God, you said it, so I'm just gonna trust it. I'm gonna lay my head down tonight knowing that you're my provider. I don't know how, I don't see it. Everything is to the contrary. If I need to change something, I'll change, God, but I understand that you're my provider and I submit myself to your reign. Now send the rain. I know right now my family looks like it's gonna blow up. And he's told me he doesn't love me anymore, and my kids don't want to have anything to do with me, but God, I'm gonna trust in your good character, and I'm gonna continue to love the way you love, and I'm gonna trust, God, that you are gonna send the rain. God, I know I'm called to do something, but it goes against everything the culture says I need to be successful and prosperous and happy, but you called me. You asked me to do it, so I'm gonna do it, even if I lose everything. God, send the rain. And I think today some of us need to put our head between our knees in desperation and say, God, send the rain. I'm gonna choose to stand on your truth, even if I'm the only one over here. God, today, I'm gonna trust in your promises, even though everything in my life looks the opposite. I refuse to stay in a desert, isolated, in a desolate place. Today, I'm gonna stand in the promise that you're gonna bring rain. Today, God. So he says to his servant, go and look. Go look to the sea, just please, please. The servant goes back. Oh, Elijah, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, nothing. What do when you get a setback to a promise God has given you? I don't know what you do, but I know what Elijah did. He said, go back. Second time, go back. A third time, please, for the love of all that is good, go back. A fourth time, now he probably is vomiting. Okay, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. And the seventh time he comes back, well, there's a cloud. It's like this big. And Elijah goes, that's it. That's it. Rain is coming. So he goes to Ahab and he says, you better get in your chariot and you better ride because rain is coming. And if you don't beat it, you are going to get stuck in your own muck. You are going to get stuck in your own misery, in your own failure, in your own mistake, in your own lie. So you better ride like the wind. So hitch up your chariot, Ahab, and go down before the rain stops you. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds, and the wind rose, and a heavy rain started falling. Oh, this is the good part. You ready? I believe rain is coming. I believe rain is coming. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm sick and tired of believing the news. I'm sick and tired of believing the narrative that this world is spinning and spitting out. Instead, I'm going to choose that the rain is coming. I may be the only one who believes it, but I believe it. I stand on it. I believe that everything we've worked so hard for together as a family is going to see the production. Rain is coming. Because here's what I know. This is so true. Whether you believe it or not is actually irrelevant. When you submit to God's reign, you can expect God's reign. When you submit to God's way, it's not always gonna make sense, it's not always gonna be easy, but when you say, yes, God, I'm just gonna do it, I'm gonna trust you, you are good, I'm gonna believe that. I'm tired of doing it my own way. I'm tired of being stuck on the side of the highway somewhere waiting for someone to rescue me. I'm gonna walk in who you say I am. And when we do that, we can receive the promise of the prophet Isaiah where God said, for I will pour water onto the thirsty land and streams on the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit on your offspring and my blessing on your descendants. They will spring up like grass in a meadow, like poplar trees by flowing streams. And so my only question left for you today is, are you ready for the rain? Are you ready for the rain? Because it's coming. It's coming. And so today, if I could be so bold to just speak into your life for a moment, because if you know me, all I want for you is to win. If you're watching online right now, I want you to know, wherever you are, the rain is coming. I believe it because God has said it. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I will hear from heaven and I will answer them and I will heal their land. It's gonna happen. And so today, I am praying God's reign in your heart and your mind. I am praying God's reign in your family and in your home. I am praying for God's reign in that troubled mind and that broken heart. I am praying for God's reign to come into every area of your life so that we can be transformed. And when we are, people will see it and say, oh, that's what you meant. That's what it looks like. So God, send your rain. We need it. We need you. We just acknowledge in this place that we've made a mistake. We thought we could do it on our own. We thought we could fix it. We thought we could make it, but we're stuck. And we recognize that we only have one phone call, and that phone call is to you, God Almighty. Today we admit that we need to submit to your reign, your rule, your way of living. That we need to experience you in power again. So God, please in your mercy, send your rain on my family, on my grandchildren, on my neighbors, on this land. God, send your rain. Rain is coming. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
What a powerful message. And as we wrap up today, I think the question I have for you is what's your next step after hearing that? So if you have this sort of whisper that, hearing something, there's some action you need to take, or even just taking a few minutes to contemplate and to sit down, don't let this moment pass you by. Think about what is happening right now. And that question I start with, what is your next step? Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this God who reigns, this powerful God we sing about and we love. We'd love to help you learn more about this God and following him and following in the ways of Jesus. So you can text the word Central to the number on the screen, 905-937-5610, and we can connect with you and just come alongside you as you explore faith and explore what it's like to follow God, this amazing God that we serve. Maybe for you, your next step is simply connecting with someone. We have a team of people who would love to connect with you. So before you leave today, have a meaningful conversation with someone. We have a team of pastors in the lobby at the connection wall and volunteers with lanyards. They'd love to just connect with you. So before you leave, instead of maybe hopping out to your car quickly, go and say hello. Learn more about who this God is, or just learn some ways in which we could help and connect with you. If you're watching online, we have online hosts. Just open up that chat window. We'd love to make sure that you can connect with someone today as well. Now, anyone who needs prayer, we have a team here that would love to pray with you and maybe even take communion if you want that. So when we're done here, please come to the front. This team is here for you. So come, receive prayer, take communion together, and we'd love to serve you in that way. Those of you who give, thank you so much for faithfully giving. There's a number of ways you can do that here at Central. So you can head out into the lobby, hang a left, and there's a giving kiosk on that wall. If you go right, there's a tap station where you can just tap your card to give different amounts. Or you can also give online at centralcc.ca/give. Now, if you have any questions, any way we can help, any way we can support, please do get in touch. We are here for you. So you can either text that number, 905-937-5610. You can scan the QR code that's in the seat back in front of you as well. And also head to our website, centralcc.ca/connect. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Have a great long weekend. We'll see you next week.